This is stop doing side bends, controversies answered. I made a video about side bends a few years back, and little did I know it caused so much controversy when I thought it was just a very simple subject to teach people how to do some simple things that give you more bang for your buck than doing side bends. So some of those controversies on that video in the comments, I have listed out on the board here. But before we go over that, I'm going to go over a couple simple concepts to really help you understand where I'm coming from when describing or answering these controversies. Okay, so when I break down the core, how I look at it is the core ABCs and the core AMP, right? It keeps it really simple because we can get ultra complicated with a lot of this stuff. So core ABCs, what does that stand for? Alignment, breathing, control. So very quickly, alignment, really what that means is that when we do most things, we should keep a relatively aligned spine. We don't want to be overly extended, overly flexed in the middle. We want to be more of a neutral spine, which is your rib cage over your pelvis. When it's in that position, that allows us to breathe properly. Now, when I say breathe, doesn't mean breathe for oxygen. Obviously, if you're watching this, you're a good breather. You're alive, right? But breathing's number 2 function is postural stability, and that works through activation of the diaphragm and concordant coordination with the abdominal wall and the pelvic floor. When that happens, we create pressure. That pressure, intra-abdominal pressure, stiffens the spine. That's the foundation for your core. Now, if you don't have proper alignment, like this here, you can breathe and your expansion is very minimal. You can't pressurize as much as you could. The goal is to pressurize as much as necessary, as little as possible. What do I mean? You don't need a ton of pressure when you're lifting a small weight such as this. You need minimal pressure. But if you want to lift a significantly heavier weight, such as this 79-pound kettlebell, which is still, so some people, not very heavy, we still need more pressure. But you can't do that with proper alignment first. So alignment, breathing, and then lastly is control. All that means is coordinated control of a variety of movements available to us as human beings. Concept number 2 is core AMP. So we're going to amp it up once we understand the ABC. And that stands for AMP, anti-move, move, and perform. So this is a progression of how we should load the core. So why anti-move first? I'll use an analogy is that if you're a race car driver trying to be the best race car driver, even just learning, it probably makes sense to know how to pump the brakes before you push the pedal to the metal. As a rehab professional or a rehab chiropractor, I see people typically in pain. And what I find with these people who are exercise or trying to perform and get better that are injured, they are doing a lot of move and perform type exercise or movements, but they don't have the foundational anti-move. So it's not that the core is not meant to move, it's just that that's a foundational piece if we want to be able to control movement and control performance movement. So we can use this AMP model as a progression, kind of like a 1, 2, 3 when we go to loading the core, which I'll show you later in this video. Okay, now on to some of the controversies, the best part. All right, controversy 1. Someone said that bar none, and everyone said this, and research says it, yada yada, that the best exercise to grow or strengthen your obliques is a side bend. Well, the answer is no, it's not. So that may be true. I didn't look into the literature, but really, for me, it doesn't pass the who cares test. And what I should have been clear on in the previous video is that when I teach stuff about the core, it's not about bodybuilding and aesthetics. It's really about health, function, and longevity. And in my opinion, when you do the simple things well, when you strengthen for health and for wellness, then as a result of doing that, you will aesthetically start to look better, be stronger, so on and so forth. So I don't think side bends are necessarily a bad exercise. It's just, I'm not a bodybuilder and I don't like to spend a lot of time in the gym. I'm a busy professional. I do a lot of different things and really I'm all about efficiency, bang for your buck, minimal effective dose. Do as little as I can to get the max benefit. And if you spend 2 hours in the gym every single day, sure, you can do all these little nuanced exercises like side bends. But why not do an exercise that complements 5 different things instead of just one isolated thing? So I like to combine things, and that video was more about that. Also, I would argue the best for growing your obliques and really getting your obliques to end range is not just a straight side bend. So someone had questioned my anatomy and understanding if I even know how the obliques work or what they are, which I think is a ridiculous comment. But if you really think about it, I mean, the obliques, they're oriented like this. They crisscross. Your internal oblique, I for ipsilateral rotation, which means same side. So my right shoulder turns to the right. I'm shortening the internal oblique. If I rotate to the left, I am getting the external oblique because it causes contralateral rotation to the left. So right external oblique goes to the left. So to get to end range, really for the external oblique, you're going to need to rotate to the left and then side bend. The internal oblique, you would need rotation to the right and then also a side bend there to truly get to end range. So if you're doing just side bends, you're actually missing out on full end range of those muscles. Personally, I could care less. But to answer that question, if you really want to isolate those obliques, you're going to rotate and then bend here. Also note when we rotate ipsilaterally to the right for the internal oblique, ipsilateral internal I, we're also getting the external on the opposite side. So to truly get internal on the right, external on the left through end range, we would actually need a little bit of right rotation with a side bend all the way back and forth. So from here, what it would look like, instead of just side bending straight, what I would do here is I would rotate myself to the right just a little bit, and then I would go end range side bend, end range side bend, end range side bend, end range side bend. And then for the external on the front, internal on the left, I would then rotate to the left here like this, and then do the same thing. Side bend, side bend, side bend, side bend. But again, it doesn't pass the who cares test for me because there's other things that we can do that I think are a lot better that I'll go through later on this video. Next is number 2. Someone mentioned that I can't think of anything less effective than the alternatives I gave in that video, which were the suitcase carry, around the world, and pendulum swings. Now I completely disagree. The reason being is because we go back to the core AMP, anti-move and perform. Let's break it down. So we'll go suitcase carry first. I would put this under my anti-move. So a suitcase carry is very simply just holding a weight and walking with it. You can march with it or just stand with it if you want. And so right here I have anti-move, isometric control of my core, keeping me centered so I don't tilt away, right? And so I'm using my opposite side really hard here to keep myself centered. So it's a great anti-move exercise. So the suitcase carry is very foundational, your first level of core training. Next is the around the world exercise. This could be considered anti-move, but it also, I think, falls on the move category for progression. And all that is just going around the world like this. So if it's pretty light, you can stay centered and anti-move. But if you go heavier, I would argue it's more of a movement exercise. So I'm moving my legs, my hips, and I'm stabilizing. And you can also, by going heavier, you challenge it more. You have to move. And then you can also use some variations of this, right, where you're controlling movement. So I'm bending, twisting, moving, my spine is bending, but I'm also aligned, I'm breathing, and I'm controlling the motion. Third one is pendulum swings. That could be, I think it could be a move, an anti-move, or a perform. So let me break it down. So for first step is the anti-move. I can use a light weight, and I can simply swing. Same thing with a suitcase carry. I'm stabilizing more on the opposite side, but it's more dynamic because I'm swinging my arm. I have to control this movement. I'm aligned. I'm breathing through it, making sure my spine is stiff and stable. But I can also move with this too. But I'm also still aligned, breathing, and control. And I can also turn it into more performance by going through like this, getting my hips involved, which has some carryover to golfing, which someone had mentioned, which is the next controversy, is I side bend in golf. I golf as well, so I understand that. Yes, you do side bend in golf. So the very simple basic thing of thinking about this, well, if I side bend in golf, then why are side bends, why don't those make sense? Well, you could do that, sure, but when it comes to efficiency, and we talk about the core AMP, well, let's think about what the golf swing is. It's rotation. So let's break it down. Instead of doing side bends, I think it makes more sense to think about the golf swing and focus on rotation, where we can take a cable machine or a band, and we'll start with the anti-move. We can do a simple pal off heartbeat. So what am I doing here? I'm moving. I'm aligning, breathing, and controlling anti-movement. Next step, movement. Well, we'll do a true pal off. We'll add controlled rotation with this. Good. And then next step, we can actually add that side bend in there on the performance side of it. Now, I'm not a left-handed golfer, so I'll switch around when I do this, but it would look a little bit more dynamic like this. So if you watch me here, I'm a right-handed golfer. I take the straps here, and what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna bring my side bend in there like my golf swing, like this. If you see me here, right, I am side bending, but that carryover is to golf. I'm not isolating side bending, I'm integrating side bending into my foundation of anti-movement of rotation, finally performance rotation. So again, I would rather do that progression than just focus on, oh, I need a better side bend for golf, I'm gonna do side bend. I think it's too basic. Next controversy is, someone said with a very nasty comment was, core is for stabilizing and loaded rotation. Well, I agree. You're saying that I think it's not. I mean, what is stabilization? Stabilization is the ability to control change. Does stabilization not happen in anti-move? Does stabilization not happen in movement? And does stabilization not happen in performance? It happens in all of them, because stability is the ability to control change. It's just a progression. So yes, you are stabilizing an anti-move, but you're also stabilizing and controlled rotation, as I just showed you in that golfing amp progression. Now, their argument was about boxing, that you side bend in boxing. So same thing, I'll do the same progression we did for golf now for boxing with like a punch maneuver. So if you break that down with the core amp, with the first one, anti-move, I can set up like in a punching, I'll go left arm. In a punching position, I can hold here, align, breathe, and I can control a punch, right, like this. And I'm anti-moving, good. Now that I have that, I can add a little bit of rotation movement with it. Notice I'm rotating my core, my hips a little bit while doing this. Next progression for performance could be getting the full body involved and adding a little bit of an explosion to it. Right, and the thing is, you can take these moves and these from anti-move, movement, and performance, and you can change it up in a variety of different ways, using different cadences, different rep schemes, different loads, duration, frequency. There's so many ways you can change these knobs. The AMP is kind of like on a soundboard. You have your bass, treble, and mids. But there's also a lot of other little knobs you can twist here with these simple moves that I'm showing you. Fifth one was a really dumb one. It says, don't trust someone with a tucked in shirt. I was in clinic clothes, the tucked in polo, but I mean, I'm not wearing one now, so I guess, do you trust me? It's just a dumb comment. And then lastly is, number 6, is side bends are functional, because I said that it's not a functional exercise. So they're saying, well, side bends are functional because we side bend. When you do different things, you need to side bend, like in golf and boxing, right? So it's very functional. Yes, I would agree. Functional fitness, or functional in general, is very broad. It means how it applies to life. But I would argue that things are on a scale of functionality, and going back to effectiveness and efficiency is, I'd rather get more done in one exercise than less in a basic exercise. And typically when I look at things and call them functional, it's carryover to what you do in daily life. For example, a very simple example is this weight right here. If I go over to this, am I gonna go and lift this weight and I'm gonna go and side bend to pick this up? No. And also, if I walk with a suitcase, am I gonna side bend like this? No. If I go to pick up this weight, I'm probably gonna go up to it, do a little hip hinge, and lift it up, right? There's more functional carryover there. So a couple ways to integrate a side bend into what has more functional carryover is something such as a windmill, where I can run the weight right down my leg like this and hinge and then side bend. I can do it this way. I can also traditionally do it this way with it loaded here. press overhead, and reach down. Align, breathe, and control. And I get a lot more out of this than a typical side bend. I can also bring this down into a half kneeling position, which is a developmental position at 11 months. We literally did this position as babies, so it has a lot of functional carryover. It's a great way to keep yourself aligned without having to think about it. Breathe, control, and now I can add a side bend here. And now I'm controlling side bend with my arm, with my hips, all that stuff, and I can even add something like a press overhead. Here, I can come up, can bring it to an overhead squat, come up here, back down, a la like a Turkish get-up, and I'm gonna get a lot more bang for my buck out of doing that than doing a basic side bend exercise. Awesome, so I hope that helped clear up some confusion. Is that ultimately my goal for my patients and for anyone watching these videos is minimal effective dose, effectiveness and efficiency, getting a lot done in one, because we're busy people. We don't have time all day to be a gym rat. I mean, maybe if you do, that's okay. But to spend hours in the gym doing a variety of exercises, in my opinion, keep strength training stupid simple. Do the foundational stuff well with alignment, breathing, and control, and then you apply any exercise to those principles, and you think about what is the carryover to what I'm trying to do in my daily life, and that is my goal. So let me know what you think in the comments. Please be respectful, and I will answer as thoroughly as possible. And I'm not 100% right about everything, so I like having some constructive dialogue, because there are a lot of nuances and contextual variety that happens when we start talking about human function. Now, if you like this idea of super simple strength training using the core ABCs and the core AMP, then I would recommend checking out this playlist right here. It's a follow-along workout series where I work you through some 3 simple but effective exercises that work the full body in 12-minute workouts so that you get effectiveness, efficiency. You're training for strength, function, health, and longevity.